I'd like to start with our call to order, roll call, and establishment of quorum. I'm calling the meeting to order today, March 25th, 2021 at 3:05 p.m. And typically our secretary, Ebony Lewis, would do the roll call, but I see that she's not here, but she is logging in shortly, so I can do that.
She has just been promoted.
Okay.
I can help, yeah.
Thank you. Ebony, are you there? I can do the roll call in the meantime. Denise Campos, I'm present. Cynthia Easton. Cynthia Easton. Ebony Lewis. Jack Padden.
Here.
Hi, Jack. Ted Pratt.
Here.
Ronald Ronconi.
Here.
Rona Rothenberg.
Here.
Okay, and I see that Cynthia Easton's here, but I didn't hear her speaking. And Ebony Lewis, is she here now? Okay.
She is not. I'm sorry. I thought that she was in here, Denise.
Okay, we'll continue to introduce themselves.
Hi, this is Laura Zuniga, Executive Officer for the board.
This is Jane
meeting is being
Kreidler.
recorded.
This is Jane Kreidler, Admin Unit Manager.
Hi, Kimberly McDaniel, Admin Analyst.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We're moving on to item C, public comment on items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment that would like, anyone that would like to address the committee at this time?
Going to open up public comment. Q&A. The instructions are on the slide. If you would like to ask a question or make a comment, please type it in to the box. Denise, at this time, I do not see any comments in the Q&A field.
Okay, thank you. Now we're moving on to item D, review and possible action on May 14th, 2019 and November 19th, 2019 committee meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve both meeting minutes?
So move.
Moved by Ron Ronconi. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by,
Ted
was that Ted? Okay, thank you, Ted.
Yeah.
At this time, we can welcome any public comment. If there is none, then we will take a vote. All those who approve, can I get an aye?
Aye.
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 Okay, item, nays or abstentions? Okay, item passes. Item E, discussion of landscape architects technical committee videos. And so to that, I'll pass it on to staff to present on that. Hi, Laura, who's going to be presenting on item E?
Hi, Denise. Jean, do we have these videos queued up and ready to display?
No, our direction was that everyone watch them first because of bandwidth.
Oh, the bandwidth issues. Okay. So I think we just need to have a discussion at this point then on if the members sort of like what they see with the videos, and maybe what type of videos we'd like to see for the architects board, because we think these would be useful. We'll hear from the members if you think they would be useful for us to have and provide to our candidates and licensees.
Okay, so we received 3 video links that we were all able to see. At this point, I welcome your feedback and comments. What will be helpful is if you can raise your hand, and then I'll call you out. But if someone's ready to go, I welcome your comments.
So if I may, this is Jack Padden. So I wasn't quite sure if the videos were, 3 alternate choices, because some of the messaging was redundant. Maybe there's a purpose behind that. Maybe we could understand it. I would say the first video happened to be the one that was really crystal clear in what the message was. And the last video was probably the most muddled to me, just for the first time trying to digest what was there. And not sure if these were 3 options or if these are 3 distinct messages. And forgive my ignorance if there's a clarity to the 3, but I wasn't able to readily pick it up.
Thank you, Jack. I don't see any other hands up, so I'd like to ask staff if some background and context could be provided to how these videos came about and what we would like to achieve with them.
Sure. This was it was a goal of LATC to have the videos developed, and so they worked with DCA Publications Design and Editing, and I think one of their staff, Sherry, is here today, who worked on the video, so she might be able to provide some additional information on the background. But these were just to provide information, particularly to candidates, about the process for licensure in California, the steps they need to go through. Just another way of getting some information out in a different format from what we've done in the past. To try to get that information out to people. And Sherry, I don't know if you would like to add anything to the discussion.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I actually produced the videos, and it wasn't PDE, it was OPA that worked on the videos. And LATC asked us to do it because they said that their licensee or their candidates were having a very hard time understanding the process of licensure and the pathway. And so it was originally developed as one single video, and it was too long and there was too much information in it. And so we broke it down into 3 videos for 3 different steps. Video 1 was the first step, video 2, second step, video 3, the final steps to final licensure. And that was their goal.
Thank you, Sherry. Does anyone else have any comments or feedback for staff on these videos?
May I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Yes. So Sherry, well done. And I really didn't go through them again after the first one. So it seemed like there was some redundancy, and maybe that's appropriate, depending on who would, watch which video. I wondered about the last one, looking in the mailbox, waiting for the return. It seemed like it's, in this, especially this COVID world where everything's digital, including our meetings. Is that the only way? Can everything be handled digitally, or is there still a snail mail component to licensure? Because the video kind of emphasized that it would be, watch the mailbox after you send it in.
Yeah, I'm not really the appropriate person to answer that question technically, but I did ask that question while I was producing the video, and I was told, yes, that is what they have to do. They have to wait for the license to come through the snail mail. And just keep in mind that this project started 2 years ago, and it was completed about maybe 4 to 6 months ago, like right in the middle of COVID. So all the video and everything that you see there was way before COVID. So if there are shots that need to be changed, that would have to do. But I think Laura can answer Mike, that question better as far as waiting for the licensure, the in the mail.
Yeah, we do. Process is still paper driven. We're sort of, the department as a whole is in the middle of a process called business modernization, where some of our boards have been able to go to an online system for licensure, and we're not there yet. So we're probably a couple of years away from that point. So it is still paper applications and sending and receiving things via the mail.
Thank you. I see a hand up, Ted Pratt.
I had the same kind of, sorry about that. I had the same questions that Jack had, and both the staff members answered on. It's the snail mail and a lack of, kind of a lack of use of the digital technology for application, but now I understand why. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so this item requires approval from the committee, so I would need a motion in order to vote to approve this item.
I move to approve the videos that were presented.
Okay, moved by Ebony Lewis. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion. This is Rona Rothenberg.
Thank you. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Item passes. Thank you very much. I did want to comment that our president of the State Architects Board, Tian Feng, has joined us. And, you know, typically when we would all be meeting in person, these are casual conversations. So I'm curious from the staff, if he wants to speak during any time, does he speak during public comment, or can he just raise his hand and join the conversation?
This is Laura. He could just raise his hand and comment at any time. We'd be all right. It would only be an issue if we were getting close to a quorum of the board. I think we're safe.
Okay, thank you very much. Tian, let us know if you want to comment on anything at any time, and I'll call you out.
Thank you. Actually, I had a similar question. That's why I raised the hand. I don't.
Okay. Okay, item, we have a full agenda today. Now we're moving on to item F, discussion, review, and recommendation of the revised outreach program objectives. So we'll have Laura Zuniga present on this.
Thank you. Okay, so as Denise said, item F, so we have a little bit of information in the packet, and Tian may want to join in on this discussion, but at the last board meeting, we had a discussion about an outreach program that the board used to operate. It was before my time with the board, but where each board member was assigned a few schools and perhaps professional association as someone that they were the liaison with between the board and the school or the industry association. I think they would check in with them regularly and report back at each board meeting. And so at that point, the program was put on hold a few years ago, I think maybe due to concerns about the workload and whether it was useful to report out at each meeting. So the board's asking the committee to consider whether we want to start this up in any type of modified form. And so we have in here some of possible objectives for the outreach program. In the discussion of the board meeting, they did decide that staff would probably be the appropriate to serve as liaison to the associations, but that perhaps we could continue with board members being paired up with different schools and architecture programs. So interested to hear the committee's feedback on this issue.
Thank you. I do recall that each of us on the architects board were assigned to be the liaisons to several colleges that were providing architecture programs. And you know, the success varied. It was good to get some insight from those who were able to make the connections to the colleges and to report back. But it was, I think, a very casual system. I see Tian's hand up, so Tian, welcome.
Okay. So I think I want to make a remark bridging both actions. The one you just passed, which I support your decision in passing it. Since I did not see a landscape technical member sitting, I just want to pass the message to the committee here, which you already voted to pass to prepare creating a video. The comment from the committee was based on the visibility of the Landscape Architects Committee to our licensees are not strong enough. And since the profession of architecture and landscape architecture is so trained in visual communication, so the committee thought it would be interesting idea to have a video because it's delivers messages faster and more visual. That was the idea came from. So I think will be good for the architects board also do that. But if I give an analogy, it's not that accurate, but I say this communication with our licensees, more vertical communications, that so our licensees knows how to efficiently use our service. And then this agenda in terms of outreach to the industry, it's a more a lateral communication approach, and how we make architects board service and our roles in protect consumers' benefit to be known to the industry, so that through the past quite a few years, we had this effort that members to reach out to bilateral organizations like AIA and other organizations, and then other group of members reach out to educational institute because these are the institute feeds our future professionals and future licensees. So Denise said, well, the result was a mix. So and I thought will be very appropriate for the communication committee, give your independent thoughts to the full board if we are going to resume that effort, what will be our objectives, and see if this committee can help shed some light that for the full board to consider as we resume these outreach activities. So what are our objectives and what we want to achieve by these outreaches? So, okay, that's my remark.
Thank you, Tian. So if I understood correctly, you're asking for the communications committee to give our thoughts on whether we should resume with these liaison roles and to create some objectives. I see Rona's hand up.
Unmute. Yes, thank you. Put my hand down. So thank you very much. I agree with President Fang, in particular to the last bullet in your summary. I would offer, and you know this, but just for the record, one of the strategic goals of the national AIA and AIA California and our 22 chapters is a strong pipeline to promote the profession, licensure, and for the benefit of the health, welfare, and life safety of the public with these programs, starting with the schools, outreach to the schools, community colleges, and universities. And there are already some very robust programs in place. And so should this board committee decide to continue the program, we can certainly optimize the programs that are in place and don't have to start them all from scratch. And I do think that it's a shared goal and value to have those programs for the benefit of future architects and the public. And thank you.
Thank you. I see Ebony has her hand up.
Hi, yes. And Denise, you could speak on it as well, but from our experience of having our liaison positions with the local programs or programs throughout California, we would do outreach and some of us would hear back from them while others were really engaged and we had stronger relationships with. So I think that it's for us as a group, we need to just really think about how we are being more strategic about those relationships and what they look like and how we how there's synergy between the programs and between our board. But I do think it is important for us to have a presence We don't have power and control of telling what programs what to do, but we can be advocates and just share information and encourage them to recruit diverse students within California. So we just have to think through of what those relationships look like and how we can be supportive and just have a presence.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up at this time, so I will comment. I think it would be good to have our staff serve as the liaisons to the colleges and to use that as an opportunity to invite them to present at the architects board, because that's something that we've been doing throughout the year. So during the time that I served on the architects board, we held meetings and had presentations by the schools of architecture at Woodbury, USC, the new school in San Diego, and so many others. And I thought that was really beneficial, where the schools knew of our existence and we had presence with each other and good conversations. But I don't think that the best way to go about building those relationships is through the board members, based on my experience, where we all work full time, and the limited amount of response I had from some of the college folks. But again, there is that connection with staff inviting them to present and to attend our meetings. So I found that was good. And then as far as what Rona said, to creating a strong pipeline and promoting the profession, I completely agree. And I know at times we had heard from the AIA that they had lots of programs where they were doing outreach and presentations. So some of that work is happening. I guess my question now to the committee is, do you feel that it's the State Architects Board role to do more to promote the profession, and is the way to do it strategically having the actual board members be the liaisons to the colleges?
So this is Jack Padden, if I could jump in on that question. So it's always, how would I say this properly? Maybe I just say it. When the professors, in my experience, really, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, great education, but the focus on the practice of architecture, of course, we did have one practice class, and the business of being in practice, either as a principal or as a sole practitioner, you really, all that was left, at least in my day, until after we graduate. And so I think it'd be great to see if there's a way to assist, encourage the curriculum to incorporate this in their architectural practice classes, which I'm sure they all have just by accreditation, for accreditation purposes. But I'd have to say in my day, which was a long time ago, I'll admit that, but not much about what it means actually to become an architect, become a licensed or registered architect, and what it means to practice as an architect, meaning the Architects Practice Act. So I think it'd be a great assist to do that. Saying that, I'm not sure, are we pushing on a string even today like we were back then? Meaning that it's really hard to get someone's attention, within the curriculum, meaning faculty and administrators.
Thank you, Jack. I see Laura's hand up, and then Tian.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I did have the opportunity, I think last year, AIA California put on an architectural education summit. So we had one in person before COVID, and then we had a virtual one, and it was with the different programs in California. And I did find that, it does vary amongst the programs as to how important licensure is to the program. To some of them, they don't want to talk about licensure at all or emphasize it or talk about the process for licensure. And then others are more willing to. So I thought that was interesting. And I don't know if the board wants to do more to try to promote the idea of licensure, or at least making sure the students get the information about it so they know what the requirements are. And then just also to note, NCARB does a really good job of doing outreach to all of the NAB accredited programs, and they try to visit them every 2 years, and they've been doing it virtually, and they invite us to participate. So I've been participating in those, and they do a good job of explaining the requirements for licensure in California, and then the requirements they need to meet through NCARB.
Thank you. And I think some of this may be a part of the conversation under item G, our strategic plan objectives. I'll hand the mic over to Tian, who has his hand up.
Denise, I just want to expand the scope, make it clear a little bit. Where the previous outreach program includes not just colleges and universities, the architecture program, also reach out to professional entities and similar roles with us, so we can exposure and understanding how other organizations practice their licensing process, such as I mentioned, AIA and other organizations, Engineering Licensing Board, the Land Survey Licensing Board. So I just want the committee, when you look at this topic, think that we are not just talking about outreach to educational programs, okay? And also about to make it clear, yeah, there are both board members' role in reach out, and there are also potentially staff's role to reach out. So Denise has brought this into the light. Denise had, I think, suggested something maybe more suitable for staff, others by board members. So you're welcome as a committee member. I did not think about it in the beginning when I asked for this agenda item, but now I think about it, I do like to hear the feedback from you as well. How do you see certain outreach tasks more suitable for board members, others for staff, if you have opinion on it? Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to hear from other board members. I do wonder if it would make sense to have some sort of a working meeting in the future. And I do feel like it is a challenge to do it virtually. I don't know about all of you, but I have multiple windows open as I'm looking at my agenda and to see who's raising their hand. And I can barely see anyone. Their cameras are off, I believe, because having everyone's video on means it slows down the network. All that to say, I am open to any ideas from other committee members about how we can move forward and be really strategic and thoughtful and work together, be collaborative about addressing all the different points that have been brought up in the board's outreach, both, and it's for multiple things, both relationships with the schools, but to reach diverse groups of folks. Are we reaching out to the professionals, prospective students, and so forth? So I welcome recommendations and thoughts, and I suggest that we consider having an in-person meeting when it's safe to do so, maybe in the fall or winter, where we can really actually work together on creating these plans. And I see Ted's hand up.
I agree, Denise. I think it's too complex a topic to try to hash out in in this virtual meeting. And I'd be willing to join a in-person meeting to just focus on this issue. We have to be careful that we're not, I guess it's not our role to actually promote the profession. But, at the same time, I guess outreach like this could be part of and parcel of our charge to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. But I'd be willing to have a separate meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments before we move on to the next item? Okay, if there's no further comments, I appreciate everyone's insight and participation during these interesting times. But there's, yeah, I think the conversation that we're having now is the one that's been had many times at the actual full board, where we often discuss what is the role of the Architects Board in promoting so many things. Does promoting diversity, does promoting licensure contribute to the health and welfare of California's residents? So I look forward to continuing the conversation at our next meeting. Item G, update on the 2019. Oh, is there any public comment? Thank you. Seeing none, I will move on to item G, update on the 2019 to 2021 strategic plan objectives. So just to provide some background, since it's been a while since we've all met, the State Architects Board had staff from the state come and lead a strategic planning session that happens every 2 years. I believe that was done in December 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And at that point, the board has a full day meeting where they come up with a strategy and recommendations moving forward. And so that gave us a lot of our guidance as to what we would do in the communications committee. So on that, item 1 is the communications plan. And so Sherry, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Gyro, will answer
It's
questions
Gyro,
regarding.
very good.
Gyro,
Yes, that you got it.
Cool, thanks. Welcome back. So if you can
Thank you.
address item G1, the communications plan.
Sure, and if I could please ask the moderator to put the communications plan up on the screen, that'd be great. It's been a while. I came up with this plan, and I believe you guys adopted it or voted on it. Not 100% sure, but I did some research because I'm not a part of implementing the plan. I was part of giving it to you guys, but not implementing it. I did assist Colleen Gavin, who did a lot of work on this, and then she was sent to do contact tracing, and so things kind of fell on the wayside, except for Kim McDaniels has done a great job trying to fill in for her shoes, doing some of the things that are on this list. And so if I could just go over some of it right now. If you could scroll down a little bit, Lisa, to the well, I'm trying to decide here. Does everybody remember this plan, or do I need to kind of go over it again a little bit?
Can you give us a high-level overview? And then we'll take it from there.
Sure. So basically, what you guys asked me to do is come up with a way that you could increase public and professional awareness when it comes to the board's mission of activities and services, and their intent to identify stakeholders, including go beyond candidates and licensees, to create an outreach program. And so some of the things that your group wanted to do, and I believe the board itself was interested in doing, is educating licensees and the public on the penalties for violations in the Architects Practice Act, increasing the use of social media and outlets to better communicate with licensees and consumers, collaborate with the Department of Consumer Affairs to come up with some of these communication plans, develop an information exchange related with professionals of DCA to better educate professionals of their duties and their needs and pitfalls of each of the discipline, to expand on the outreach with community colleges and schools like you were just talking about earlier, and then to issue an annual practice brief update on licensing misconduct to increase public and professional awareness. So you guys have touched on a lot of these things, and like I said, Colleen has done a lot of this. She started the work on it. One of the things I recommended that you folks do is join LinkedIn, which I opened it up. I started it for you, and now you guys have a LinkedIn. So good for you on that one. That's a really important one, I think, especially in your profession, to get other people in your profession follow you or connect with you, as well as, you know, engineers, land surveyors, geologists, all, you know, construction, you know, people from CSLB. If you guys could connect with them through your LinkedIn, that would open up a lot of your networking, and I guess maybe open things up to more consumers, because this is really the whole thing, is that we really want to show consumers that A, we're here to protect them, and B, here's what you do to protect yourself, right? So the other thing we did was start social media campaigns. Colleen has started several social media campaigns, but that has fallen off because she's not here. Now, I mentioned Kim McDaniels. She has done some great things, and you know, she kind of got thrown to the wolves a little bit because of the whole contact tracing and COVID and everything. But I thought she did a great job. She took pieces of the newsletter and dissected them and posted those on social media with some imaging and things like that she's done. So that's great. I have gone through your social media, and it is lacking content from you folks. There's a lot of content from DCA that is mandated to post, but I'm afraid that it's your message is going to get lost, in that people are going to see wear your mask, but they're not going to see, you know, here are some, you know, what is it, practice brief, or, you know, things like that you need to share. So I know it's really hard for you guys right now because you're short-staffed, but I think making more, you know, doing more posts and being more engaged with social media will definitely help out with your social media campaign request. Posting your own unique content, sharing videos, posts, blogs, meetings, announcements, brochures. Colleen was doing all of that stuff. So
Sherry, if I could interject, and it looks like you're going down the list of items that we have on the agenda, so we can talk about all of them interchangeably.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to add, I don't know if it would be you or if it would be Laura to talk about who's doing what while Colleen is out. And so in the past, we've often talked about newsletter statistics, the social media updates. I'd like to know, like, who's doing the social media posts now. Are our numbers increasing or decreasing in terms of followers? So that's, you know, some of the things that are under item G.
Yeah, this is Laura. We have some info in here, the stats on our followers, but Kim has been doing the posting that we get from DCA, but Sherry's right. We haven't really been doing our own original content while Colleen's out. She's been out for, I want to say, maybe close to a year on a contract tracing assignment. And she is our main communication staffer. So without her being there and without having someone to backfill those duties, we don't really have the ability to do a lot of the work that Colleen was able to do when she was in the office. So we hope she's coming back soon. We're kind of trying to do the best we can and hold it together while she's out, but some things definitely we haven't been able to keep doing while we're short that one person.
I have a question. Would it be possible for the state to hire a student intern to do social media, or would that be like a complicated process?
I mean, there are some programs that use student assistants. I don't recall offhand the process to try to get one, but we can certainly look into that. We can work with human resources to see, if that's doable. It's a good idea.
Thank you. Sherry, do you want to continue with the presentation?
Sure. So I'm trying to look to see where I left off, because Lisa Bacon, could you scroll down so that the committee members can see the yellow highlighted parts? It's right underneath recommendations. There you go. I just want to see, so the parts that are highlighted in yellow, you can scroll a little bit more to reveal what's beneath there. I just want you folks to see what has been implemented and started out and what hasn't with this communications plan. One of the things was share a link of your annual practice brief update. I'm not sure if Kim has done that or not. I looked and I couldn't find it. I think you did, Kim, but if you're listening, have you?
I think Kim's here, but this is Jane. Yes, we have. The annual practice brief is posted on the website.
No, but I mean on your social media.
Well, no, I posted that on our social media. Just
Okay, I think
snippets of
that
the
was one of
newsletter.
the, okay. I think that's one of the things that they wanted to do was share that on social media. So a couple of other things here besides the social media, because we've kind of gone over that, is to reach out to architecture publications and news media outlets. Now, one of the things that we have done on that list, if you could scroll down, Lisa, to reveal that. Thank you. We did, Laura and Tim, who has left, and Colleen and I met with AIA, and we kind of talked about how we could share content with each other and kind of, do things on social media to garner more followers, more content, more activity. That was a nice meeting that we had with them. But we really haven't done very much else on that. One of the things I think, Denise, you requested was to have some press events in English, Spanish, and Chinese. And that is possible, but it's a tall order when it comes to other languages, because we would have to consider hiring a translation company. And but at the same time, I think it would be important to promote how CAB protects the consumer and tips for consumer protection in all of those languages, because there are consumers out there who they have to hire an architect, and you guys have the Consumer's Guide to Hiring an Architect, and so that's one of the things that you could be promoting and having those kind of I don't know about press events, but there's certain things that you could troubleshoot with that and try to get that word out there. But that's tough. It's really tough to do in other languages, and it's something that does cost money, because you have to hire a translator or find somebody who can speak in different languages.
Sorry to interrupt you. Do you want us to hold all of our questions until the very end, or can you take our questions during the presentation?
Oh, that's fine. If you have questions, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. So Ebony, I see your hand up.
Yeah, no, I definitely thank you for allowing me to step in. I definitely think that it's worth the investment. I think we have to think about how we are being diverse and inclusive and providing the information that is needed for our very diverse population in California. And I think that we should look at and figure out how much it costs and make some changes. So I would like to see like how much that would be. And I don't think that I really don't even see that cost should even be what is the barrier. I just think that we need to figure out what we can do to be more diverse and inclusive and provide the materials and information that is needed in different languages.
Thank you, Ebony. Ted?
I totally agree with Ebony. We're such a diverse community in our state, in our country, that it's incumbent on us to be able to communicate with the various cultural groups, because not everybody would be able to, English is not everybody's first language. And we really need to reach out to the diversity. I mean, we may have 100 different languages spoken in the state, but we should at least cover English, Spanish, and Chinese at the very least, it seems to me. I mean, that's what we're all about, right? Communication and protecting the public health and safety.
Thank you, Ted. To refresh everyone's memory, when we had this conversation was shortly after, I believe, the Paradise Fires. And I thought that was a perfect opportunity for us to do proactive media outreach, which is no cost media coverage to get our messaging out and to educate the public and inform them about using architects for any of their home repairs or remodels during this time. At the time, staff was going out to some outreach events, or I know that some of our brochures were available through the, I think it was through the DCA's building and construction folks that were, because we didn't have enough staff, they were doing outreach for us, but that's something that I haven't seen us do. And I can't imagine the state of California not having translation services available for these purposes. If I don't see any other hands up, I will let Sherry continue. Thank you.
All right. So the one of the things that I would definitely suggest you do as soon as CSLB revamps, or not revamps, but starts up their senior scam stopper program, I highly recommend that you guys attend that with them, and almost maybe even partner with them on the senior scam stoppers. You know, we were thinking, we were talking about doing that after the wildfires too. But I just think it's really important to collaborate with other boards, because you have at least two boards that are very related to your board. So that's another one that I recommend. And then working with academic institutions, which brings me to the next bullet point, making more face-to-face connections. And you see a list of all those colleges and universities. Those are the top ones that I pulled that I think that you should be connecting with. And I also represent, and I help do communications for the engineers. And I'm wondering, Lisa, if you could pull up that video now. I'm going to introduce the video really quick. And basically, they have 3 staff members who don't play it just yet. But I'll tell you when, Lisa. But BPELS, they have 3 staff members that used to go at least across the state. I don't know if they went across state lines, but they presented to colleges and universities, and they had a bunch of different ways that they presented the path to licensure, basically. And this is what you do. Okay, you're about to graduate. Here are your next steps. This is what you do. You're going to need to come to us, and this is how you handle it, kind of thing. And they have 3 different presentations that they were making. Well, when COVID hit, that came to a screeching halt, but they still had the need to reach out to those students, because those students were still going to graduate, even though they weren't on campus, and even though their 3 staff members weren't allowed to travel, they still had to reach out to them somehow. So they came to me, and they had a whole PowerPoint presentation that they put together, and they said, what do we do with this? And so what I did was I rewrote it for them, and I voiced it. And so they hold webinars, and they get students to attend their webinars. And then, you know, I'm sure they have those 3 people who do the speaking across the state. Now they just do it on the, you know, WebEx meetings or whatever they use, and then they show these. So Lisa, go ahead. This is like a 2-minute little sample that I put together to show you the little PowerPoint that they show the kids.
Welcome and congratulations on making it to the next level of your career as an engineer. This video takes you on the path to licensure for professional engineers for all disciplines in California. This process pertains to engineering students in an ABET program, NCEES Fundamental Exams, or FE, and NCEES Professional Exams, or PE. When it comes to public protection, technical criteria for professional licensure is like a 3-legged stool. Education, work experience, and exams are the three legs that support public protection. There are also administrative requirements for licensure, including submitting to a background check, an application, and other documents and fees. The board exists to protect the public through exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Our highest priority is to protect the public. As an engineering student ready to join the workforce, it is your responsibility to know if your engineering work in California requires a specific license. There are three ways our board protects the public. We work with two international groups, ABET and NCEES, and we develop our own testing that is specific to California's needs. ABET, or the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, is a nonprofit, non-governmental agency that accredits programs in many fields, one being engineering. The board is able to witness the accreditation of engineering programs at California colleges and universities. ABET ensures that a college or university program meets the quality standards of the profession. It accredits programs and not institutions. Thousands of programs around the globe have received an ABET accreditation. Hundreds of thousands of students graduate from an ABET accredited program each year, and millions have received degrees from an ABET accredited program since 1932.
Okay, so you can see this is how they explain things now to the students, and what's valuable to this is that I think they provide them with a link. I'm kind of guessing on this part, but they provide them with a link to these videos so that if they do have any questions, they can go back to these videos and look at them. And I think it's just a valuable tool when it comes to connecting with these institutions, universities, and colleges. And it didn't sound like the echoey either. I think that was a WebEx issue. So
Sherry, really
that's
quickly,
just,
I see Ted's hand up. Ted, do you have any
okay.
questions or comments?
No, that's my problem. I need to take my hand down. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about that particular program that BPELS uses? Okay. So, you know, I was going to suggest that you guys attend the AIA conferences, which I guess you guys have done some of that. It's just kind of hard right now to attend anything. I was going to suggest that you go to college fairs and have, you know, set up a booth and, you know, get some travel approved so that you can do some of these things. But maybe that comes in the future. You know, and then some little side notes here and there. Some of the things you can scroll down if you could, Lisa, on yeah. Some of the things that I have done for you folks is I've done some content as far as rebuilding Paradise. It was going to be a two-part series, and then COVID hit, and so now we just kept it at one. And I think that I showed it to you the last meeting where we talked about how an architect helped a Paradise victim rebuild her homestead, which I think was 3 homes on one piece of property in Paradise. It was a really interesting and emotional story. I have done a story on landscape architects and their role in the road diet, and as far as the green paint that you see all over the streets. And then recently I wrote an article for the Consumer Connection magazine about how architects are going to play a big role in buildings when it comes to safety with, you know, pandemic and the COVID and, you know, touchless type things and the way buildings are designed so that, you know, there's not so much the contact, there's the social distancing, the things with the schools, hospitals, things like that. I think that's about it. I'm always looking for stories, but those are the kinds of things that need to be shared and posted on your social media, and that will get the word out. I also understand that one of the things that you guys had done, there were some military posters to attract some military candidates, saying that you can be an architect too, kind of thing. I think you updated those posters, and I think you did share them on social media. But again, this is something that needs to happen often. You don't just post it once and then let it go. It needs to continue. I think that's it. The other things, I suggested that you change your license search button, and you did that on your website. Also on your website, I noticed, and these are really picky things, but important things. When you click on a link on your website, it takes you directly to that link, and it doesn't open up a new tab. And then, boom, you're away from your website. And that makes it hard for candidates or consumers to come back to where your home base there, where you guys were. And so I suggested that you guys separate that. And so that still needs to be done. I'm trying to think of anything else that I think that's really about it. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Sherry. I don't see any board members raising their hand at this time. I appreciate all of the information. A lot of these things are the same things that we covered a year ago. And what I wanted to ask Laura is to help explain to the board who's responsible for what. Because I feel like we offer a lot of suggestions and have a lot of conversations, but I don't see a lot of movement on a lot of the things we've talked about in the past couple of years. So help us understand what is the role of of the staff within the architects board. So like if Colleen is our key communications person and then she's not there, does someone else take over? And what is Sherry's role as is she like a consultant on behalf of the state? I think that would be really helpful for me.
Sure. Sherry created the plan for us, and I know, as she said, she worked with Colleen. I think we have in the past asked maybe DCA to help us create that unique social media content, but that hasn't happened. So I guess that's a responsibility of the board versus DCA. And while Colleen's out, we have, I think, done our best to try to do what we can in the communications area, but we definitely haven't been able to get everything done with that one position being vacant, or I guess with her being out of the office for so long. So it's not that we've forgotten about the objectives. And then some of that is impacted also by COVID and the fact that we can't really travel. We've done a lot of virtual visits with schools in California, but we can't do the in-person travel at this point to do the outreach to the different schools and look at the job fairs that might, be happening hopefully later on.
Thank you. I see Ebony's hand up.
I'm muting myself. So I think that other creative ways to tackle the social media, once we get an intern or somebody who's able to manage it, would also be having people sharing their stories. So if we know consumers who are cab, they can share their stories. So if you've seen on other social media handles, people will take over the handle so that it's less responsibility for just one person, but you're able to capture multiple stories that are happening in the industry and what's happening. I think that could be also another strategy. So thinking about just creative ways to get information out to people and knowing that we exist, and having outreach between people that are handling those stories and tapping into their network as well.
Thank you, Ebony. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you, Sherry, for your work and for the update. And I'd like to open it up now. I do think we have a couple of people in the public. Is there any comments from the public on this item? Okay. And so does this complete all of items G1 through 4? Or are we going to speak about the consumer guide to hiring an architect now?
This is Laura. I think Jane was going to present on that item. We haven't covered that.
Actually, yeah, I think we are on number 2, the newsletter enforcement action statistics, which Laura was going to present, and then I was going to present the social media updates and the consumer's guide.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. So item G2, newsletter enforcement actions statistics.
So on the statistics, I'm sorry we didn't put this in the packet, but we do have the information for 2019 and 2020 and for the start of 2021. I think previously, Denise, you had asked for information on how often the enforcement action information we sent out in the newsletter was accessed, if we could track that through analytics. So we do have for 2019, the newsletter, it looks like it was about a little over 10,000. And the enforcement actions was about double that at about 20,000. And then for 2020, the newsletter was up to about 15,000 and enforcement actions were a little over 21,000. And I'd say we're probably on track for that so far in 2021, but we'll provide the history and we can put the information together to put it in the minutes for this and in the next packet.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on item G2? Okay, item G3, social media updates and proactive media coverage with Jane Creedler.
Okay, thank you. So in the packet is attachment 2, and it shows all of the social media statistics. And even though we haven't had a huge presence, or at least we haven't posted too much, especially in the past year, we still have a decent amount of followers despite that. So that's good. You know, that's a really good thing. Our social media statistics for next year, of course, we will have many more posts and they will increase. So we're looking forward to that. Any questions on that?
Okay, well, thank you. We'll move on to item G4, draft of revised consumer's guide to hiring an architect. Jane?
Okay, thank you, Denise. So in the last meeting, it was decided that the guide would need to be or should be updated, and a draft was supposed to appear at the next meeting, and this is the next meeting. So looking for approval and for any comment with regard to the new booklet that's in here.
Okay. And so for those of you who are following along on the agenda attachment, this starts on page 40 of the Consumer's Guide to Hiring an Architect. And so Jane, do you want to walk us through what we're looking at, or what are the changes that you
Sure.
actually, no, it's not on page 41. That was just one image from it.
Right. It's attachment G. It's attachment 3 under item G. It's the last part of it. So what we tried to do was, well, we added the design limitations for professionals because that was one thing that was mentioned that should be added to it. We also tried to clean up, really the majority of it was cleaning up the language to it, making it more understandable and adding additional information with regard to the contract and what should be in the contract. I would say that those are the major changes. Otherwise, much of the information is the same.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments on this? And how is this going to be disseminated? Is it virtual, or is it like where people can just go online and get it, or is this where we're still printing it and mailing it out?
So we will print some. It will be definitely online, but we will print to be mailed out.
Okay. Seeing no other questions or comments, I'll open it up to public comment on this item. Okay, I don't see any public participation, so thank you, Jane. We can move on to item H, review future meeting date. So I know in the past we've met once a year, and I've made comments publicly and also spoken with a few folks that I feel that meeting once a year really shows a very low level of commitment to our communication strategy and to actually doing all the things that we say we want to do. So I have asked for us to meet at least twice a year in the past. And so I know that it's been a difficult year, but also opportunities to meet virtually in the past year. So Laura, do you have an update on item H, or is there anyone, or is this an opportunity for maybe board members to comment on their thoughts? And here I do see a hand up. I see Tien.
Sorry, I did not turn on my camera. I meant to be early in the morning.
There you are. It's nice to see you.
So yeah, I'm on now. Yeah, I urge staff and committee member look at this item, and I really encourage you to have 2 meetings at least. That's my feeling, because when you have agenda items, some items require the follow-up actions. That will be a perfect opportunity to have a follow-up. At least that's at the professional qualification committee that is having a team for past few years. Okay.
So you're recommending that we meet twice a year?
That's right.
Okay. How do others feel about that? What are your thoughts?
I agree. Ebony.
Ted?
I totally agree. Would quarterly be too often? Is that too hard to get everybody together?
I would think it's not too hard for me, but I wonder if because of the situation where there's limited staff bandwidth, I wonder if that would be a concern. But you know what I would like about quarterly is having shorter meetings and addressing just one item versus meeting twice a year, long agenda, and just there's so much to cover.
I totally agree, Denise, and I think it would we'd actually see a little more movement on our part as committee members, and then also maybe staff members. Just once a year, things tend to kind of go stale, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I would caution you. Yeah, quarterly meeting certainly can get the short lead items get taken care of, but even an organization like this mostly volunteer based, and we have multiple committees. So think carefully before we decide on how many meetings. Some of the items has long lead, like we ask for a video introduction of our service. That alone will take a few months to have staff and resource, get some concept in, and have you review it. So anyway, just a remark, not imply any direction on my personal experience. Yeah, aware of the resource and productivities for how frequent we will have our meetings. Okay.
Thank you. I see a couple of hands up. I'll start with Rona, and then we'll go to Jack, and then Ted.
Well, thank you for that very, very good update on the strategic objectives. I was just going to offer that if the Brown Act and your policies and procedures allow a working group, and you suggested a working group to discuss the topic of outreach in more detail with a limited number of members, that then bring back a report, that might be a feasible alternative in lieu of the quarterly, such that some of these items have action and don't have to make an undue burden to a quarterly meeting, and on the other hand, don't provide too much commitment for working professionals, but alternatively, some of us can convene in a limited fashion to do the type of study that we could then bring and relieve our fellow committee members and staff of that responsibility and a time commitment.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, so one of the things I might suggest, and this is a good strategy we use for, say, project meetings, is to set up quarterly meetings and Denise, kind of to your thought, keep them to 1 hour. I mean, just every meeting would be 1 hour and we really have a focused agenda. We keep things on track, but have 2 meetings for sure, mid-year or, twice a year, but we have quarterly meetings set up and we decide if it would be those meetings because it's so hard to get a calendar time. So if we set up 4 meetings a year, but 2 of them we would hold only if there was something meaningful to discuss as a full committee. Because I think what helps is to have it on the calendar, and then as we get within, say, a month, decide, do we have really an agenda to discuss, or do we cancel that meeting and just have two meetings for sure a year? But I think twice a year is almost as essential. I really agree with that. Once a year is a long space in between. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Ted, did you have a comment? I see Laura's hand.
No, I just forgot to put my hand down.
It happens to all of us. Laura?
Okay, thanks, Denise. I was just saying we can accommodate what the committee wants. I think 2 meetings a year is doable. 4 meetings is definitely a lot more than we do for the other committees. And I would say like between the board meetings we do a year, which is 4, and each committee, if they meet twice, is another 6 meetings. And there is a workload involved in planning those when we have to meet the open meeting act requirements and work with legal to draft the agenda and the materials and meeting all the notice requirements. It's certainly easier when we're doing the WebEx meetings versus trying to find a physical location, but we don't know how long we're going to be allowed to do that. We're operating under a governor's executive order right now. So just things for the committee to consider. It also mentioned that the board's going to undergo strategic planning at the September board meeting, adopt the new strategic plan in December, and at that point maybe then communications can meet before that, but then meet soon after, and then set depending on how long the strategic plan is for, kind of plan out how they want to address those new objectives or any carryover objectives, and then set a kind of a schedule for the length of the strategic plan and plan out, how often they want to meet and what objectives they want to address at each meeting. And going back to the working group idea, that is doable. I think we can do it if there's 2 board members or less present. We don't need to notice it as a public meeting. And so we can handle that a little bit more informally.
Thank you, Laura. Chen, did you want to say something? Okay, so if there is a working group, who is interested in participating? Ted, thank you. Ebony, Rona. Okay, so then if there's 2 or more of us, then we would have to have public meetings and send out the notice. But let me have that conversation with Laura and strategize and come back with an email to the board maybe in 2 weeks where I can update all of you on how we can proceed on this.
Could you just check on the number, because I'm a planning commissioner and on our planning board, the number, if I'm not mistaken, it's 3. The working groups are 3, over which we have to make a public notice. So we keep all our working teams to 3 or less.
I'll check in with legal. I know for when it's board members, it's more than 2 we've been required to notice. I don't know if that's going to be impacted by committee versus board members. I'm not sure that it is, but I'll do some checking and get back to you, Denise, shortly.
Okay, thank you. This has been a good conversation. I appreciate everyone being here. Thanks to our Architects Board President, Tian Feng, for joining us. It's helpful to have folks from the board be here so that if there's anything that we're missing, or when you're thinking of your strategies and it's coming down to the committee level, we're kind of all on the same page. Ebony, do you have your hand up for anything? No. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so that was the final item on the agenda. Are there any last requests for comments or anything before we adjourn?
So I just want to thank committee chair Denise and the committee members and the staffs. It's a very solid discussion, maybe because of a long time we have not met. So it is good. I appreciate it. And I was taking notes along the line. So thank you again for your volunteer, and it's very helpful.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. Thank you all for your time. My goal is that we don't just talk about it, but we actually see some movement, and we have seen some movement on some things, but I think we can do better. So I look forward to seeing that happen down the line. Thank you all for participating, and have a great rest of the day. And we're adjourning the meeting today at 4:21 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.